Welcome to episode 210 of Come On You Reds as we're staring down decision day in Major League Soccer. Gareth Wheeler and Terry Dunfield with you. Another week of Toronto FC banter, analysis. It's just the place you want to be. We come, we hang, we laugh a little bit, and discuss the team that we all love. Terry, how's your week, pal? Doing okay?
Yeah, it's been great. Started off with a little snow, loving the beautiful weather. We're still in the Supporters Shield conversation.
Yes. No kidding. By the way, the weather is phenomenal all the way through to next week, 19, 20 degrees. I remember early December last year, we just got dumped on. There was an early snowfall and we just couldn't get out of it. November was miserable. So this kind of helps us get through. And I'm thinking that the patio's screaming our name this weekend, buddy.
Is that what you're thinking? A little patio action? Golf patio? There we go.
Bingo.
Last year was a long year, wasn't it, of snow and darkness.
Yeah, it was awful. So at least through it all, we have some sunshine to help see us through. Jerome joining us as always on this week's episode. The Priso party has begun. As Toronto, I just had a dramatic pause there. I just thought you're going to laugh or add something to that equation. The Priso party, you like it?
I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of alliteration. I'm sorry.
You.
I had the mic on mute. I was doing the producer thing, laying back in the background. But
the alliteration, the alliteration, Jerome, is like 95% of my material.
Yeah, the other 5% is puns at that point. Yeah.
I didn't know you were going to come in so hot right off the hop. Mine was a visual reaction. I was happy.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that's why we're on YouTube, right?
Bingo. TFC defeat Inter Miami. We're going to break down that victory. We'll tee you up for this Sunday's decision day, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, as Toronto FC takes on New York Red Bulls, and the playoff picture will become crystal clear in the MLS Eastern Conference. And our high five this week, because everyone's being glued to the dysfunctional television that is the American election, our top 5 soccer people that we'd like to see become president. And I'll leave that there, president of something, okay? So we'll have some fun with that a little bit later on. I mentioned the Priso party. That's where I want to start. Like, I'm surprised that maybe a bigger deal hasn't been made of the debut of Ralph Priso, a Toronto FC team that lost back-to-back games for just the second time on the season, wanted to have a bounce-back performance. Returning players into the team, Chris Mavinga, Eric Zavaleta, Ayo Akinola certainly helped Toronto FC on their way to a 2-1 victory against Inter Miami in a game where rain was coming down sideways, the weather was miserable, the pitch was slippery, but TFC fought their way through. And I just thought the star performer, the headline coming out of that game, was an MLS first start for 18-year-old Ralph Priso, who put on a show, Terry Dunfield, and showed Toronto FC supporters just how bright the future is.
Well said. He was outstanding, wasn't he? And we got a little taste of it a few days before, I was going to say week before, against Philly in his cameo performance. And I thought he was outstanding. There's almost like a feeling of warmth over me watching him play. It was the coolest feeling that you got to just play a little part in Ralph's development, and watching him over the last 5 years. It was amazing. It was incredible. And
you're like a proud uncle. That's what you are.
I don't know. It's just so many. It's just seeing him go out there and just do his thing. And he was in the zone. I thought he did the simple things extremely well. And that's what gets you paid. You now become consistent. You become reliable. He connected 51 of 55 passes. To put that in perspective, his passing percentage, I've done a couple of stats on you, Wheels, 93%. And Michael Bradley's was 89%. So whenever that ball came into him, he won it. Kept hold of it. Defensively, he was in good spots throughout the game. And it was almost like he was on autopilot out there, and all his training since he's come into the academy prepared him for that moment, for that start against a World Cup winner in Matuidi. That's who he's up against.
No kidding.
His first start. And I think that this was the first time okay, take Ayo out of the equation a little bit. I think he's a little bit different in his pathway. That an academy player has really kind of moved the dial and come in and said, you know what, I'm going to take that opportunity with both hands.
Let's walk through some of his gameplay as well, because there was a couple elements of the game that really stood out to me. The first was how much balance it provided playing alongside Michael Bradley, Terry. It just seems that when Michael plays with players that are a little bit more athletic, he can play his role, which he does so well, just being the quarterback of the midfield, sitting a little bit deeper and having a little bit less responsibility to cover, every blade of grass on the pitch. I think that the fact that he's a left-sided player with his left foot, it's slick. He provides something that TFC doesn't really have in that position. And I loved his composure. There's some young players that come into games and they look timid, they look confused, they look uncomfortable. He was in the right spots at the right time. Every time he was on the ball, he was positive. He was getting stuck in, winning challenges, competing for second balls. Like he ticked all the boxes for me. Maybe you can kind of walk us through from your vantage point what you saw and what stood out to you the most about his overall play.
Yeah, for sure. There was balance. There was a respect to Michael Bradley's game where he worked around Michael at times and filled space. He was probably a little bit safe with his passing, made sure he did connect, which is exactly what you want on your debut. Next steps would be a little bit braver, a little bit quicker in possession. Greg said that in his post game. You always want a little bit more, but big picture, nailed 51 of 55 passes, started the game extremely well, was a beast in defensive transition, was never exposed for being out of his shape. And as you said, his balance in the middle of the park was phenomenal. And having that left footer is great. And he also gives the ability to drive forward with the ball, which is great, and break maybe a line on the dribble. We saw that a couple of times as well.
See, with the range of, I completely understand what you're saying. And to Greg Vanny's comments about him as well, being a little bit more brave with those passing. I don't know if he has to be in this team. And I say that because Michael's got a very good range of passing. So does Jonathan Osorio. Like, he can play almost the Marky Delgado role. Delgado's completely economical just in his distribution. He's not a player that's looking to ping it all over the park. He just wants to keep the ball largely at times. He's 18 years of age, right? So he's still a kid, but I like what I saw. And especially you brought up Matuidi, a World Cup winner. He's played over 300 games for Juve and PSG at the highest level. And he could be playing in Europe right now. Like, he still has game, Terry. And he went toe-to-toe with Matuidi, and it wasn't like a deer in the headlights. He was a confident player who had played 40 minutes of professional football coming into that game on Sunday. It's just incredible to me.
And then afterwards, on social media, on TFC's social media account, I think Eric Giacometti got him on film, and he tried to get a couple of words out of him. And I think Jaden Nelson was in his ear saying, "Go, and you were incredible." And he goes, "Yeah, on to the next game." He's just he's so bought into the process and just playing. And I think he's really grabbed. Not only, I don't think it's a surprise. And I'd say what he did is very repeatable. It's not like he stuck it in the top corner 3 times. All his actions, he can just continue to do, add to it. And maybe why he wasn't the story is he didn't stick it in the top corner. And, Ayo scored a great goal. We win after losing 2 in a row. Greg Vanny's contract's kind of looming a little bit. So I just think we've got players missing, players coming back from injury. I think those were the storylines. And you know what? For a young player to kind of fly under the radar, that's perfectly fine too.
No kidding. I mean, it took a while to get it over the line, him signing a contract, but Vanny was adamant every time I talked to him that he wanted Priso to be part of his plans. And you can see why. Like, he trusts the player. And with young players, it takes a lot for them to get into the team, Terry. And he's another player that's taken advantage of his opportunity. With Delgado and Osorio out, he stepped up. He stepped into the spotlight. And now he's going to put pressure on others to relinquish that spotlight.
For sure. And you know what he'll do too? I remember our team that was awesome in 2017. I'd watch training sessions. The training sessions were as good as games. There were so many players that couldn't get in. We had like 12 players that played pretty much every game, but training sessions were that good. And if Ralph's not in the team, he's going to kick lumps out of players trying to find a way into the team, making others better too.
Yeah, love it. 18 years of age. Terry Will hits me up on Twitter at Gareth Wheeler. He said, where did Ralph come from? I don't remember a whole lot of talk about him through the academy until he was signed to the first team, and he was extremely impressive. So you know the background. You are Mr. TFC Academy. Did you see this trajectory from Ralph? Like, where did he come from, to answer Will's question?
Not quite Mr. TFC Academy. We've got an awesome team there, but Ralph, he came from Brampton. He's been in our academy since our under 14, 15. So he didn't come quite into our TFC juniors program right at the start of the academy. And since day one, he was a beast in our academy. He always played up. It was almost too easy for him at times. And his coming out party a little bit was going to the U17 World Cup in Brazil. And I think our head coach, Greg Vanny, said it best, that of all the players in the squad that played watching the tournament, he was probably the one that was the most ready for first team football. And when it got tough against Brazil in that opening game, he stood up. He was excellent against Angola. And he just took maybe 6 months to kind of get into understand the environment, train with our first team.
Sure,
it's been a
absolutely.
messed up year with COVID to kind of just get his bearings. But soon as he kind of built a little bit of confidence, I think Greg said, you know what, he's ready to be thrown in the deep end. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think it does. Sash asked another question about how it seems like Liam Fraser has been earmarked as the heir apparent to Michael Bradley. What does Priso's emergence do anything? Like, how do you see Priso? Because I know coming up through the academy, who's more of an 8, I think Greg might see him in more of a role as a 6, or maybe a little bit of a hybrid. What do you make of the position and how he fits into the puzzle?
What do you think? From what you've seen first.
See, I don't think he's like a Michael Bradley. I think he's far more dynamic would be the wrong word, but I think he's much more box to box. And Michael Bradley and players like Liam are much more of a holding midfield, like to sit back, have that space in front of them, and ping the ball around to a certain degree. And I don't know him as well as you, Terry. I just look at him as being a much more modern day kind of 6.5, 8.5.
Yeah, I get that. And that, I think that versatility will give him more minutes. And I think maybe Liam doesn't quite have that in his game, where he's that player that sits underneath and looks to really set up attacks and protect space, where Ralph can receive it on the half turn. I'm not saying Liam can't, but I'd say this could be one of Ralph's strengths. He's got the ability also to run in behind from midfield. He's got a great running capacity. And he can also do a little bit of a man-on-man job defensively. You saw him track back and track players at times during the game. But what's interesting is I think TFC's game model's evolved a little bit, where it's maybe not quite a clear number 6. There's a little bit more movement in the middle of the field.
Yes.
And I'm seeing at times more of a double pivot on the build. And it's not as clear that everything's going through our number 6. And I think, Liam and Ralph can both play in that double pivot role, but I still believe Liam's best spot, a little bit like Michael, is as a single holder in there.
Me too.
And I think that Ralph can kind of be that facilitator player, maybe a little bit more suited than Liam, if that makes sense. And I in a real physical league as well, I think Ralph ticks that box as well.
The Priso party is going to come to an end for now. I think we heaped enough praise. By the way, Jerome, once he matures and becomes a real force for club and country, we can call him King Ralph.
Okay.
Okay. So
I like the reference.
I see you've got a fan in Jerome. You just get
I think if there's anything we've discovered on this pod between music and humor, Gareth and I are a lot closer than we realize.
Yes. Yeah. Exact. Kindred spirits, buddy. Just
sure.
make sure that you heard it here first. King Ralph. Ralph, what a name. You don't hear many people named Ralph anymore, do you?
No.
It's just it's a solid name.
Just quickly going back on this I'm feeling sorry for Liam a little bit because by no means has he become a bad player. It's just something a little bit different, and there's a novelty to Ralph right now. And I don't want to discredit what he's done, but what'll be good for Liam is he's always looked ahead of him. And he's always looked at Oso. He's always looked at Marky. He's always looked at Michael in particular. And, you know, that's what's been in front of him. And that's what's been stopping him to get minutes. Well, now he's going to get a kick up the ass from Ralph. And I think for his development, this is going to be important too.
Do you know what? Liam came on late in the game and he worked his you-know-what off. Yeah. You know, that's I never mind competition for spots on a winning team. When you're on a losing team, you want to step up, step in, and make a difference and try to turn your fortunes around. But on a team like this, it's going to require a complete team effort. The team would like, and Jonathan Osorio would like him to be back on Sunday. There's no guarantee about that. Marky Delgado, same thing. Might be the playoffs for him. You're going to need options now, next season, however this plays out. So
and you know, we've got a head coach too, Wheels, who gets that. And it would have been easy to put Liam out into Siberia after a couple of mistakes against Philly. What does Greg do? Almost Nick Nurse style. He starts against New York City in the next game.
Yeah, good point. Overall, I really enjoyed the game on Sunday. Honestly, I think it's exactly what TFC supporters needed. And it's not just the win. It was a very watchable game. Like, you know, they've been in some street fights over recent weeks, and not every game has been pretty. And then you, on the back of 2 losses, you just need to create some positive vibes. And I thought it was Ralph coming in. I thought Auro was rock solid. The center back pairing, I mean, Eric Zavaleta has been great the second half of the season. He had to deal with Gonzalo Higuain. He had that one move where he was on top of the box on his right foot. Just an individual effort from distance, rang it off the bar. Other than that, the combination of Zavaleta and Mavinga were excellent. Thought Gallagher was good. Michael Bradley looked like much more like the Michael Bradley that we've all known and loved and respect, and having Ayo in the team up top, there was just more balance to it, and they were playing against a team with some real good talent, some star players, so it was contrasting styles. It was just a watchable night, and the weather added a whole other element, and the fact that there was a couple thousand people in the crowd cheering along, so it just had all the ingredients for a positive night, Terry.
You must have been watching Man United before as well, which made it look even better.
Don't even. It hasn't been a great week.
I had to bring you down.
It's okay. I'm numb. I'm numb.
What's happening with your boy Pogba right now?
My boy Pogba. Your boy Pog bust. Oh, man.
I agree with you. I thought it was luggage. I like it when you say that. I thought it was two teams trying to play good football. And you saw 2 connected groups. There's tons of quality in the team. And it did lead to a watchable game with chances. And again, we had to show our resilience with the supporters' shield that we were chasing. It was a must-win game. It was nice because the Philly result came in before, so there's a little bit more weight on the game. To go down 1-0 and still dig it out, that was cool as well.
Yeah, although TFC were down at the half 1-0, I don't think they were playing poorly. Scrappy goal they gave up. Matuidi gets his first for Inter Miami. It was just a scrambled situation. Michael was pinned on the line. The ball kind of came through Zavaleta after. It wasn't their fault. Like, the ball just came to the back post, and you're at 6s and 7s, and the ball just ends up in the back of the net. For a team with so much talent in Miami that you're looking at, that you're playing against, they score the scrappiest of goals. But again, much like games earlier, within the last few months, games against Columbus where they come out and step up their play in the second half. In Philadelphia, their win against them. Just the second half, the team played a little bit more direct with Patrick Mullins coming onto the field, and they played with confidence. There was balance in the group, and they stepped up to the challenge, Terry. Not the first time they've come from behind to win a game after 45 minutes this season.
Yeah, well said. I thought Mullins coming in He's not always maybe the prettiest on the eye, but he gets shit done. His movement's interesting. He gets kind of into difficult spots to pick up, and he came on the right hand side, but there was a little bit of a rotation between him, Paz, and Ayo. So there was a little bit of movement between the lines. It wasn't maybe as structured as what the first half was, and we started to overload their midfield, and it then became repeated attacks after attacks. And I thought it was a good sub, and it also gave us a little bit more energy as well. And then all of a sudden, we had that TFC momentum.
I think it's good coaching by Greg Vanney. He's looking at Inter Miami. You're never sure what the team's going to look like that you're playing against. And you almost need halftime to reset because they were playing with 3 center backs, and 2 of them are definitely not center backs, and Powell and De La Garza. And you want to try to take advantage of players who are playing out of their element. So why not try to force those players, put some more pressure on players that aren't used to playing that position? And by pushing Mullins up on them, it made Inter Miami a little bit more frenetic. They couldn't just get their foot on the ball. The conditions didn't help either. I just thought it was good coaching. You're taking advantage by adding a number into an area of vulnerability for Inter Miami.
Yeah, for sure. There's 2 things that I kind of come to mind. We've spoken about it on the pod. Leaving a little bit a couple times, leaving a little bit in your back pocket this year with so many games and such a congested fixture list seems to be a recipe for success. And having a heavy bench is very important. And I think that those players coming on were helpful. And the other thing which is tough is, and some teams have tried to do it unsuccessfully, is with little time between games, it's hard to really change a game model, and it's hard to really go after certain areas of the field because you don't really have the time to train it. And I remember the last time we played the New York Red Bulls, our kind of games shifted a little bit closer to them, away from being a little bit more open and expansive and what it was in 2017. So when we played the Red Bulls last time, you're thinking, are we going to go at them? Okay, there's still differences. Play them at their own game, or will Greg try to open up the field? But I think with just not a ton of time to train, you've kind of got to stick with what you have, and then you can adjust things in the second half. And it played out that way. That was a long ass answer. Did that make sense?
Yeah, that it made sense to me. You'll have to ask our listeners if they were able to keep up. But your boy Wheeler, he's there.
The 2 things
has your back.
is making sure you've got weight on the bench to change the game, and trusting that they're going to come on and make a difference. And 2 is not getting too far away from your game model because you just don't have time to train.
Yeah. So that change was Mullins for Endo. Well, I want to get into the other changes in a moment, but first let's chat the Ayo Akinola goal in the 55th minute. Your boy Mullins, just a searching ball, and Ayo just beast modes Powell out of the way. Powell used to play right back for Portland Timbers. He just looked like a fish out of the water, flopping all over the place. But I want to give Akinola a lot of credit because, one, your first touch, you're going to chest down the ball, but he put it towards where he wanted to go. Not every player does that. A player, especially with a defender on him, might be safe and try to control it back towards where the ball's coming from, or might try to protect it on top of the 18. He decided, I got some space inside, put it down, and his second touch was just as good, Terry. Putting it out a little bit in front of him so he could take a shot on his third touch. So I thought the combination of those 2 touches were just about as good as they get, giving himself an opportunity to put a shot on target, which he did, and he found the back of the net. I just thought the technique, the strength, everything to do with it was just a wonderful piece of skill by Ayo.
Would you say time slowed down watching it?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Is that what you felt?
Yeah, that's what I thought. And that's a sign of just
Matrix style.
Yeah, that's a sign of a top goal scorer. And I don't think he's thinking. I think he's in autopilot. It's unconscious what he's doing, and that's a sign of a real confident player. And he's got an incredible toolbox. My other thought was it was similar to. I brought comparisons to his header against Philadelphia, where Gallagher whipped that ball into the box. Yep. And what you're seeing with teams against us right now is they're starting to protect that space in behind, and there's not a lot of space to run into, and defenders are now set to clear a lot of crosses. But if you put an early ball into the box, that is your center back. That's one of the toughest balls to deal with when you're now facing your goal and you've got a runner coming onto you and an in-swinger ball. And Caldwell said it was kind of a hopeful ball in from Mullins, but the backline wasn't set. Powell's out of position, which was a great point. And here's where Ayo needs to be a little bit cute. If he really goes beast mode on him, it's a foul. And it was just a gentle it was enough to kind of lawn chair him. He falls over, and then it's a couple of silky touches, and that's where a player in form, time just slows down, and it's like poetry, man. It was just so cool to watch, and you almost go, it's going to be a goal. You just say goal, and he tucks it away. And there's not many players in this league can do this, and this is why, if he continues, scores another 2-3 goals before the end of the playoffs, you're talking about a $10 million player here.
Next week's High Five, we're going to do our moments of the or storylines of the season for Toronto FC, and Ayo Akinola has to be part of that list. His 9th goal of the season, that was a team high at that point. And this is where I want to get into the next chain, or the next change.
Sorry, Wheels. I was going to say one more thing, and this is why, bringing in somebody like Mullins, which is he's a little bit different to everybody else in the squad. He's a little bit more old-fashioned, a little bit more pragmatic. He's not maybe as Arsenal-like as some of our top operators are, technicians are, and he just turns Inter Miami and puts it in a difficult spot.
Yeah. So TFC could have come away with a draw, but obviously they're fighting for that supporter shield. I don't think if you draw the game, many people are coming out of it based on the weather, the schedule, who's available, who's not, say, that's a bad result. But in the 72nd minute, and Auro played very well over the course of the game, but he decides to bring on Richie Laryea, who is such a weapon. You talk about players that can change games coming off the bench. He went for the more attacking option, playing down that right-hand side, and it's Richie Laryea with his footprints all over another TFC goal, coming from the penalty spot. That move, which I don't know if anyone describes it better than you. Describe to our listeners what he actually does to put that left back on toast on a regular.
What did I call it again? I had something for that left foot drag.
Like a shimmy, it's like a little, it's like you put your right foot in, you put your right foot out.
We do a great job of creating a little bit of a time edge for Richie, and now he's 1v1, and he can come inside, and it's almost like a little hesitation move. And Nick Soolsma used to do it, and he just drags it with it's. Yeah, I know it's a crappy
different speeds. Different speeds.
I'm sorry about my language. We're doing the pod after 9, so he just freezes the defender, and you know where he's going to go, but his acceleration so quick. He just drags it with his left foot. I've got it in my notes here somewhere. I'll dig it up. And he just gets to the byline. I thought it was a little bit of a soft penalty. I don't think VAR.
It was so soft. but Terry, it was the first move that put Miami into trouble. It's just about that move getting there, and then all of a sudden there's panic. Ben Sweat, he was sweaty, comes over, gets too close to Richie. Richie flops. It should have never been a penalty for me, but if you're Ben Sweat, the last thing that you want to do is be trying to clip the heels of Richie Laryea. It was a stupid challenge because he put himself into trouble, right? Like, as a defender, that's what you don't want to do. It's not very good defending. You want to leave a little bit of space. So if the player turns, pivots, so you can step in and make the challenge. I'm thinking in my head as a defender, I always love to give that extra little bit of room because I want to be able to react and have space to step in and be the aggressor at some point. When you're that close to a player, you're asking for it. you're asking for trouble. So full credit to Laryea, and Manchester United styles. TFC gets another penalty.
Sweat defenders have it, man. You have
Sweaty.
it on the golf. You have it on the golf course. He just gets like road rage where he gets beat, and now he's got to deal with it. It's like when you hit a bad shot, you know the next one's going to be rubbish because you're like, I've got to get this right. And it's like he wants to make amends for it. And like you said, don't make a play, just stand up. And one of the things I'll never forget, I was over in England, maybe I guess 3 or 4 years ago, and I was in a Man City press conference, like a super fan in like the front row by Pep, and he was talking about his team. And the thing that stuck with me was why Raheem Sterling was so good is he can go past a player and he can create an overload on his own. And in Richie Laryea, if you get him that ball with a little bit of time and space and speed, he's taillights, man. And defenders are scared of him right now. And his final product's getting better and better. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for Vanny to bring him on and play him in an attacking role at some point. Just if you have Auro and Gallagher and Morrow, we'll see Morrow's health. He was out of the team again, just having a tough time staying healthy. But you can use Richie higher up the field. I don't know where he's better suited, but you can certainly use him in different ways. So then I got to give a shout out to Jerome.
I had an espresso, so I'm all over it right now. But I'd like him higher from that fullback position because it allows our double midfielders to kind of roll out into the fullback position and kind of play mate from there. Or Greg says sometimes go to a back three. So I actually like him kind of coming into that spot on the move rather than kind of living there. And my concern would be is if he lived out wide, it might look a little bit like Gallardo.
Sure. Then Pause steps to the spot and shout out to Jerome. Jerome, what did you text me?
Bottom right.
He called the shot. And the thing was, and I don't know if it was with you, Jerome, after or was with Eric Giacometti. What I was explaining was, I think Pozuelo's first option for the penalty is always the Panenka down the middle. And he's waiting for the goalkeeper. And if the goalkeeper doesn't move, like McCarthy didn't move on the weekend or Sean Johnson or whoever, he just passes it bottom right. So Jerome, like that's in his default. Like I think it's.
So I have it.
Are you with me? His first option is Panenka. You think his first option is pass? Okay.
So I think the first option is bottom right. And then they talk so much about how he hides his intention on it. So essentially, like we've seen it happen a couple times. It happened on this play too. If the goalie locks up and doesn't make a move, then he has that every time. But the second that the goalie makes a move down the middle, that's the Panenka move at that point. That's the way I kind of look at it. Yeah.
Terry, you want to split the difference here?
Kind of like a poker game. It's like a back and forth. If you
I think you just got big stones if your go-to is down the pipe with a Panenka.
I think that's where he wants to go. Look at
that's the only reason. I just don't have the courage to want to ever think to go that way. So to me, I'm just like, no, there's no way anyone would. I think, but then he did call his first Panenka. You know, like that's the classic story where he told Bill Manning over dinner that he called his first shot, and that was what he did against NYCFC. Of course, at a time where we didn't know it was going to be a thing he'd do all the time.
See, Jerome, I think he loves that. I think that honestly, if he's looking and he's like, if I see the goalkeeper cheating on me, I'm going straight down the middle. And then if the goalkeeper's stuck, he goes bottom right.
That gave him another $500,000 on his contract saying I Panenka down the middle.
I mean, that is a really interesting thing, just in the psychology around penalties. Like, how much does everything change if that first Panenka doesn't work out? You
might not want to ask Terry advice on this. Sore spot.
I apologize.
Stay in your lane, Dunfield. No, I'm going to go with Jerome. I agree with Jerome. I think he's going to go either right or left in his head. And then if he catches the keeper kind of moving, it's then Panenka comes out.
Do you know what the funny thing is? He'll never tell us. So it's just up to us to speculate.
I want to say Thierry Henry had that a little bit, that little side footer to the corner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But this is Thierry Henry we're talking about. With all due respect to Pozuelo, Thierry Henry were the top, 3-5 players of the Premier League era. Unbelievable. And it's 2-1. And then Pozuelo matches Sebastian Giovinco for the most penalties made in Toronto FC history with 11. And Pozuelo's only missed one. Remember at the end, the final year, like all of a sudden, Giovinco got the yips a little bit. Like he always went power low to the corner. He hit some posts. Like
he went bottom left, didn't he? A lot.
Yes, yeah, and he got the yips in that final year, which was really weird.
Didn't we have a couple guys, and then Josie tried to like we had a few guys up, and we couldn't, and we were getting penalties for fun, and it was everyone was like.
So with Pozuelo, Paz is the only TFC player to start and play in every game this season.
Yeah.
If it's not Pozuelo taking a penalty, who is it? Who takes penalties on this team?
Josie, if he's playing.
Okay. Yeah. And he's out. I don't know when we'll see Josie, but who are the penalty takers?
Piatti, maybe Simon would take one.
Simon, maybe. You look at the team, maybe
Richie.
I don't. Aro, maybe Aro. I don't know. My whole point is Pozuelo is the penalty threat on this team, no doubt. And there's no one else.
I'm gonna go with Piatti. I think he's our.
Okay.
Be interesting. We should have a bet, the three of us. So who's okay? If Pozuelo's not taking a pen, who's the next one to take one?
Well, we'll talk about this. Do you know what? We'll talk about this on a future pod because we're entering playoff time. Instead of the home and aways or one-offs, we can see penalties. So we'll pick our 5. Okay. In a future podcast.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think that this week will be good. Quickly on pause. I think this week will be good for him. He's played a ton of football, heavy fields. I think he just needed just a little bit of a breather. And so, I just want to say quickly on him. I was thinking about it. I think he needs a really fresh team around him too to be at his best. And if you watch like the Neymars and the Messis, guys that really pull strings for teams, I think it's important that the players around them are really at it and fresh as well.
We've been all over the MVPozuelo campaign, and I'm not backing off on it. What does that goal mean, Terry? That's 9 on the season, joint team high. Toronto FC in the running for the Supporter Shield. It's a 2-horse race. Them in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is more strength in numbers rather than that 1-star player. Yeah. I don't know if he's been the best player in the league, but he's been the best player in the league for one of the best teams. So does that goal, put him, a step closer to winning the top player in Major League Soccer this season? Yeah,
I think he's there. I think that helps. I think it just brings a little bit more spotlight on him. I think it's important that TFC, if we win the Supporter Shield, it says the fact that we're still in the conversations, it's going to the last game. I think you always want your top player to come from that team unless someone really runs away with it statistically. But yeah, I think Blake picking up an injury doesn't help him. So yeah, I think it's
goalkeeper cannot win best player in the league.
But I think that just goes to your point at Philly. I think they've got some very good players in that team, and there's a lot of talk about their academy, but they've got some real good internationals in that midfield, but not enough to say that they're the heart and soul of the team.
Right. Yeah. That was kind of my point. If there's other players in the mix, Diego Rossi has been unreal again for LAFC. Great player. Jordan Morris is a sweetheart. That they would love to give it to the good old American boy that, Seattle, regular contender. They've had a good year. And another sleeper, Chris Mueller, scored again tonight for Orlando. Check it out. I think he has 9 or 10 goals and 7 assists. He was out through injury. He's been excellent for Orlando City. And Orlando has a chance, if TFC and, slip up on the weekend, they have a chance to close that gap. So it's really tight depending on what happens this weekend, between Philly, between TFC, between Columbus, between Orlando. And Muller, along with Nani and DK, Pereira, but he's been hurt. They have some really good players, but I think he's kind of been the best of the bunch.
I'm glad you brought up Pereira. He's probably he's my sleeper top player. Like this guy's a baller, man. I remember when I first saw him in MLS's back. He reminds me a little bit of Deco. He was excellent again tonight until Nani was questionably sent off. He's a good player.
He looks like him, eh? He looks a little bit like Deco.
You're having that shout?
Yeah, absolutely. Just before we move on to decision day, the other thing that stood out for me is, and it's one of those things when we see TFC at their best, they're so efficient on the ball. They had 58% possession in this game, and they completed 86% of their passes. And I don't know if enough people talking about this. Toronto is number 1 in all of Major League Soccer in pass completion percentage. And I don't think it's because they're playing it safe. I just think that teams end up sitting back against them because they're so dynamic in the way they move around the ball, and they're intelligent in terms of the way that they play. But I just like that stat, Terry, because it just shows that they're playing an efficient brand of football. In the games that they've lost, that number has gone down significantly. So for me, it was back to business on the weekend with numbers like that in possession and pass completion.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think it's always nice to look at your performance objectively, and it's funny. I think defensively we've been so solid. That's flown under the radar a little bit. I think we've really protected our goal well, and if we're playing this brand of football, it's so important that we look after that ball. And it's in recent weeks, it's kind of frustrating because you could even say the Inter Miami goal, and I'm not trying to put a damper on what you said, comes from us not connecting a pass. And if we look after that ball, we're going to be okay.
Yep. TFC wins 2-1. Anything else you want to bring up? DeLeon's been great. It was interesting. Yeah. In his press conference, he came out and addressed the press. What a guy. Like, just a great dude. He said that he feels a little bit out of rhythm. When he plays at his best is when he gets that run of games. Now he's had 3 consecutive starts. He got pushed a little bit higher up the field. I think he's been playing some good football for this team. And with players out of the lineup, I think he's right in the contention for that starting spot on the left-hand side come playoff time.
Yeah, and I think experience in the playoffs and trust is important. I could see him in there for sure. And he's got that big moment in him where he could just turn a game in a second. A good point about a run of games. I think that point about pause is important. A little bit of rest and a little bit more freshness in the group around him. That'll help him. And I think too, kind of stumbling for a couple games would be so cool if we won that Supporters Shield. There's so much has gone into it. I think that'll help us. That opportunity late on where they had that half chance, Federico Higuain, that we need to keep pushing and we're that this league can be ruthless at times if we're not at it, and that kick up the ass. I think that's important as well.
Miami will be okay as soon as next season. It's very cool seeing Higuain play in Major League Soccer. Same thing with Matuidi, Rodolfo Pizarro, good player, but it's almost like that first year that TFC had Seba and Josie, and you had all these weapons. You need defenders, and they're going to have to do some serious recruitment on the defensive side of things, just in terms of shape and structure. But very watchable team, and a good night out in Hartford. TFC beat Miami 2-1. Terry, you said it just before TFC kicked off. Columbus Crew beat Philadelphia Union 2-1 the final. Nemeth goal right at the end beat Joe Bendick, who stepped up and stepped in, the former teammate of yours, Joe Bendick, Terry, stepping in for Andre Blake. Just couldn't get out to the ball. I don't want to put it all on Bendick, though. I mean, Philadelphia had plenty of because Philadelphia had plenty of chances. They just couldn't find the back of the net against Columbus. But anyway,
I was texting, going back and forth with Corey Ray, our former assistant GM, asking him to do us a solid, and he said, "Yeah,"
and he did.
I went in at halftime. You're welcome.
Well done, Corey. And that means that both Philadelphia and Toronto FC are both on 44 points heading into the final weekend. No one can catch them, and they're handing out the Supporters Shield based upon points per game. Orlando City on 41 points and Columbus Crew on 38. So Orlando can draw level with those two teams, but Philadelphia by far and away has a better goal differential. So that looks like too steep of a hill to climb. So it's really TFC and Philadelphia come this weekend, Terry.
Yeah, it looks that way. Philly play New England. They've had I think they've won 7 and drawn 2 of their last 9 against them. But New England they're on their day. They're a tricky team. They just snapped. I think they've lost 3 in a row until their last game. They're a solid unit. They've got their DPs back, which I think for them is important. And then all we can do is take care of our business. And I think momentum coming into the playoffs is important as well. If for whatever reason the Shield weren't to play out.
Yes. Look, the Shield would be great. I think there's a puncher's chance. New England is in 6th place right now. They're on 32 points. If you're not sure how the playoff structure works, because it's different this year, 10 teams in the Eastern Conference qualify for the playoffs. 7 plays 10, 8 plays 9, and those 2 winners go on. And depending on what seed they're in, play either one of the top 2 teams, where Philadelphia and Toronto FC are battling for those top 2 spots. Obviously, so you get to play one less game. The games will be played after the international break. I hate this international break with all my might. So those first round games between 7 to 10 will go on November 20th. So we're looking November 24th, roughly, when Toronto FC would play that first round game. So it becomes clear it's decision day this Sunday. I love how they do this. All 14 teams in the Eastern Conference will play at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. And then all Western Conference teams will play at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. Like you said, New England or Philadelphia have dominated New England in these most recent games, but it's difficult for a team that's never won anything. And let's underline that. The Philadelphia Union have never won anything in Major League Soccer. All the pressure's on them to take it over the finish line, Terry. It's a national televised game. It's the ABC match on the weekend. So all eyes will be on them, and it's up to them to rise to the challenge. If they stumble, it's all about Toronto FC going to Red Bull Arena and coming away with the 3 points to put pressure on the Union.
And look, they already stumbled last week against the Columbus Crew. Crossing the line's tough. And Alex McKechnie, the Raptors super physio, the Kawhi Leonard loading. And
your favorite Alex.
Yeah, my mate that I forgot. He said the one thing, he won 5 rings with the LA Lakers. And he said the one thing about the LA Lakers was whenever there was a closeout game in the playoffs, they won it. And yeah, that always kind of stuck with me. And that's the sign of a championship team. And they weren't able to close in their last game. So, I mean, we just got to do our thing.
TFC plays the Red Bulls. Red Bull, for whatever reason, Red Bulls, those 2 teams from New York give TFC trouble on a regular. TFC's only won one of
give us trouble.
TFC have only won one of their last 5 games against New York.
We used to pump them in the playoffs, didn't we? Beat them.
Yeah, but when Jesse Marsh was here, it was like scrappy. Remember, in the year we won MLS Cup, New York City FC playoff time. But in the regular season or the last couple of years, other than I think we remember the Pozuelo 4-0 massacre night, and then we beat them in the playoffs. But look, this season they beat us twice, and MLS is back and 1-0.
They've had our number this year.
And New York Red Bulls, like I said, in the last 5 games, they beat us 3 times. And that punk teenager scored the worldie last time out. And they're a team right now, 7th place in the Eastern Conference. Not sure if they can equal New England on 32 points, but they're a -3. New England's a +3. I don't think they can catch them, but they're going to want to go into the playoffs on a high note. They have some good young players. There's going to be some squad rotation. Is rock star football. They just go a mile a minute, press all over the field. So it's not an easy game. It's not a walk in the park for TFC this weekend.
No, it's not. They got pumped in their last game 5-2 against New York City in the New York Derby. So that's a tricky one. I read into that there'll be a little bit of a reaction. I think with a young team as well, I think they're fighting for places. That all those young players, just like at TFC, you'll want to start that opening playoff game. And so I think there'll be a little bit of playing for places. They're an awkward team to play. They kind of just, we've spoken about it before. Their attack's not super calculated. There's a lot of counter pressing. They almost hack their way up the field and then just keep coming and coming. They press at times with a front four. It's very aggressive. It's difficult to get through. It'll be interesting to see if we come at them. We touched on it earlier in this pod with a little bit of a different game plan, whether it's playing a little bit more direct over top of the press, whether it's making the pitch a little bit bigger. I expect an adjustment from Greg having a little bit of time on the training ground. But I'm quietly confident that we'll see a different TFC team to the one that we saw when we played them in the middle of a 5-game stretch.
And Caden Clark scored that ridiculous goal to equalize late. They were missing some players. Caceres, good midfielder, was out last time TFC played him. I think he was coming back from international duty. Aaron Long was out as well, the center back. With Long and Parker, if they're both fit, they're both able to play. That's a good pairing at the back. Physical, big. It'll be a real challenge for a player like Ayo.
Yeah. I think Ayo will be smart. I think maybe he might not have as much joy running in behind somebody like Long, who just kind of mows guys down, and Parker as well. Maybe he's creating a little bit of space underneath for others, but expect him. He just keeps finding a way to be a handful right now.
Yeah, right. So TFC, New York Red Bulls, that is coming your way Sunday afternoon at 3:30. Anything else on this game?
No, looking forward to it. I'm interested to see too what a treatment room. Hopefully that's starting to empty out a little bit as well.
Yeah, sounds like Oso will be ready to go. Question marks around Delgado and Piatti, obviously, but the date that you're looking for players to return for playoffs, like I said, is like 3 weeks from now. It's not this weekend. It's 3 weeks from now. So plenty of time to train, get it back on the field. You're going to have a mix of players returning, but Greg's going to want to make sure that he has players who are in form, fit, ready to hit the ground running. No more home and away playoff games, Terry. It's just one and done, which is going to make every game that much more dramatic, but there's no messing around.
Yeah, I think it's almost a cotton wool job, and it's going to be hard, but if I'm Greg, I'm thinking now big picture, and if someone's just carrying something a little bit, and it could go from, 100% you're going to be healthy for the playoffs, but if you play, that might not be the case. I think you err on the safe side.
Good stuff there. Anything else going on? Anything else you want to bring up before we get to the high five?
No, I'm just so proud of the young academy kids coming through, all the hard work coming to fruition, and then there's tons of other young players out there that are pushing as well. And it takes time, but I really believe that here in Toronto we can be a conveyor belt of talent, and also cool to see Forge making some noise in CONCACAF as well. Yeah,
if you missed it, a team called Taro, who play out of Panama. They're one of the top Panamanian teams. This is the team that beat FC Dallas in Champions League 2 seasons ago, went toe-to-toe with Club America. They've been a very good team in continental play in the CONCACAF League, which goes about to qualify for the CONCACAF Champions League. Forge, who will play Toronto FC, we're thinking in January for the Voyageurs Cup, went down there and beat them 2-1 midweek. Just an incredible performance. Watching them play, Terry, they played a team from El Salvador. It wasn't a very good game in their first game in this competition, as the Canadian Premier League season, the Island Games, came to an end a while ago. But look, they have some players who can play in Major League Soccer in that team. Kwame Awua, left back, used to play for New York City. I think he's good enough. Chris Nanko used to play for the Philadelphia Union. They're really solid at center back with our good buddy David Edgar, obviously Premier League pedigree. Daniel Critzen's a really good pairing partner, left-footed center back that plays along beside him. Kyle Becker, former Toronto FC player. Like, there's some real talent in the team. And they play with a little bit of swagger. They play with some bravery, some commitment. It's an interesting mix. I was trying to think, if Toronto FC go into that game against Forge in the Canadian Championship final, how much of a threat would the Canadian Premier League side cause? And if you asked me, 3-4 weeks ago, I'd have said, no problem for Toronto FC. But there's something about this group. They're plucky. They go about 14, 15 deep. I don't think they give you an easy game, do they? I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. I was just kind of thinking as I was watching, like, this team, like, it's tough. You've been down there and played down there. Yeah, there's no crowd, but the pitch sucks. And it's not easy to go down and beat a team from Panama in Panama.
Yeah, it kind of made me had the chill go down my back when I turned it on TSN. Been down there, played Panama. Julian de Guzman scored a good goal against them, I think, for TFC when we were down there. Yeah, like you said, not an easy place to go. There's a Mighty Ducks feel to this Forge group right now because they're almost playing to keep their season alive because there's no league. There's nothing else than TFC in the final. They have to win away from home. It's not home and away. So it's all or nothing. And it's at the moment, it's galvanized the group. I think it's good for Canadian soccer. Do I think they'll give TFC a problem? Probably not. No, I think our game models are similar. I think TFC just have too much quality. And unless conditions were to come in it and all of a sudden we're playing in Hamilton, which I think the game will be at BMO. I just think that there's, with all due respect to those guys, and some of them are friends of mine, it's a big step up.
I'm totally with you, but coming out of that game, because it was cup competition, it planted a small seed of doubt. I was like 10 out of 10 confident that TFC would roll. I still think that TFC will win, but it just planted that small seed. And that's the ultimate compliment to them about how well they played. And it was a great game to watch, Terry. There's chances both ways. They kind of went toe to toe a little bit.
And they played the game in the right way. Bobby Smirniotis is an excellent coach. As you said it, they've got talent. They're clear on how they play. This year, I think they've evolved. There's a little bit more grit to their game. I think that their collective defending's improved. So yeah, I'm excited for the final, and it should be a proper Toronto Hamilton derby.
What I want to know, if they win one of the next two games, they go straight into the CONCACAF Champions League. Does that mean, if TFC didn't, just say like 3 guys are sent off, something crazy happened, whether TFC just being in the Voyageurs Cup final would go straight to the Champions League anyways? It might just mean that a trophy's on the line, because if they qualify for the Champions League, then maybe we'll see 2 Canadian teams in the Champions League, which would be great. Relax. And don't have to circumvent MLS rules. So.
Relax. We're in MLS. We win the flipping MLS Supporter Shield. We don't even get a trophy, and we don't get in the Champions League.
That's my point. But we might see 2 Canadian teams anyways, as the Canadian cream is rising to the top.
Yeah, boy.
On that note, time for this week's High Five.
High five.
By the way, have you seen Borat yet?
No, I'm not. I'm better than that. Sorry. Hold on. 1, you're not better than that. And 2, shame on you. The movie's good for everyone. This week, because everyone, I don't care where you are in the world, everyone has election fever. There might not be a president named, 4 years from now. Who knows what's going to happen down south of the border? So we're going to name our own presidential candidates, our top 5 individuals from the soccer world that you'd like to see as president. Okay. Great. I like this one.
We need the hail to the chief. Anyways, are you going to put your own Terry Dunfield spin on this?
You know it. I'm going to do most likely, or who I would vote for. This is who I would vote for.
Yep.
For president of the world within the TFC squad.
Okay. I like that. I like that twist.
And Jerome and I have collaborated as well.
Woo, a collaboration. Nice. I'm just going to go with people from the soccer world that I want to see as president. So
what are your guys president of? The soccer world?
Just the world, of the United States. Doesn't matter. They're just president. I see them having presidential or, the qualities that you need to be a prime minister, a leader of a nation, a leader of a group of people. Do you want to go first with your TFC one?
Yeah. at number 5, he probably should be higher, but my list is stacked. On my ballot, I've got Jonathan Osorio. I think he's stepped in, been an excellent captain. I still think that he's nowhere near his ceiling, especially in the leadership realm. But man, I'd follow this guy.
Do you know the thing with him as being a leader? I think it's a really interesting conversation. Don't you think being with the Canadian men's national team and him being given a leadership role in that team has helped him with club as well? Because it's not easy finding out those leadership roles because, Michael's just such a big influence on that room, and Josie's a big influence, and Seba was a big influence. You know what I mean, Terry? Like in the Toronto FC room, there's a lot of big names and a lot of big individuals, but with the national team, Osorio's really emerged as a leader for country as well.
Yeah, I kind of gave a crappy answer why I'd follow him. I think that's a great point. I think with leadership, people come to leaders that help them, that are reliable, and you don't necessarily have to be the captain. But Osorio finds solutions, and he helps his club. He helps people. He's a facilitator. He helps players around him. He has an incredible appetite for the game, and he's just so competitive. He's a winner, and I think when you mix all of that and his experiences with the Canadian men's national team, working with John, who's excellent in this field, I think you see a player that's really growing in this world.
All right. Number 5 for me, an individual from the soccer world who I'd like to see as president. I'm sorry he played for the Montreal Impact, but Didier Drogba. I mean, not only does he have presence, like I've been in a room, I've been in a stadium with him. The way that he conducts himself, the way he carries himself is incredible. This was a guy when Ivory Coast qualified for the World Cup in 2006. There was civil war going on in his country. He intervened and spoke to the people and the politicians directly, and the fighting came to an end. I mean, for a footballer to have that kind of influence is just on another level. He's also been named a United Nations Development Program as a Goodwill Ambassador. He's donated money for the construction of hospitals within his country as well. He's a global superstar and legend of the game. I just think Drogba ticks all the boxes. Did I convince you?
Yeah, you convinced me. I was kind of shrinking in my chair here.
Good point. Yeah, all right. So for the TFC category, Terry?
I'm going to go for a combo leadership group here. A little bit like Roy Evans and Gerard Houllier at Liverpool. Are you ready? Okay. Simon and Chris Mavinga together. What a fun world that would be.
That's your ticket?
Yeah. I think like the world's upside down right now. And you know what? Maybe these guys can navigate it for us.
Character and personality counts. It does. And both of them are chock full of it. All right. At number 4, Jose Mourinho.
What?
Because right now there's that difficult relationship between the media and people in positions of power. He just wouldn't be having it, Terry. He wouldn't be having it at all. I'll tell you what, when he was manager of Manchester United, it was must-see TV anytime he was in a press conference because you just don't know on what kind of tangent that he's going to go off on. I think he's a winner over the course of his career. I think that he speaks from a position of power, of strength. I can see him in a presidential kind of role. He brings the right set of characteristics of emotion and planning, and he does things his own way. I don't know if it'd be really good or really bad, but I'd like to see it.
You probably wouldn't need a translator either.
He loves the camera, dude. Like, have you watched the Spurs on Amazon Prime? Like, he loves it.
He'd probably come in on a double-decker bus as well.
The special one.
No, I think I'm I'm not sure how pragmatic it would be, and I'd be worried when it spirals out of control, my friend.
No kidding, which inevitably he would just be a one-term president. Let's be honest. That's all. And he might be, he'd probably be impeached after, like, the first year would be really good. The second year, some cracks, and the third year he's done.
Yeah. And then as soon as he gets all the resources, he's lost. It's got to be him against the world. So I don't think he can take control of the world, man.
Maybe he could be like a dictator of some, like, some random country where he just screams and yells all the time. Everyone's like, who's that crazy dictator over there?
Not in the Commonwealth. No.
No. Number 3.
I have here Q.
Interesting.
Yeah. It was kind of cool. And
is he too nice? Do you think he's too nice?
No, you don't have a career like he has done. I think he's a fantastic teammate. He's very important for the dressing room. He's competitive. He's a little bit old school, great self-awareness. And at the start of the year, we did a Zoom call with all the players, and they spoke. So the goalkeeper spoke to a handful of goalkeepers in the academy. Our 6s spoke to Michael. Our 8s, Oso and Mark, and so on. So we had them in small groups. And Q spoke to, rather than just actually speaking to our goalkeepers, he spoke to an entire U13 team, which is our first team to come into the academy, about the habits of professional soccer players needed, being a good teammate, club values. And man, his experiences he's had, the type of professional he is, how he looks after himself, just a top operator.
Very good. I'd vote for Q, by the way.
Yeah.
Friendly, looks you in the eye, shakes your hand, very gracious. He has humility.
Family man.
Good one there. I try to include him in all of these lists. Sir Alex Ferguson. He's like one of my favorite people on the planet, but he was the original Trump by banishing the media. He didn't speak to BBC for, like, was it 7 years? Yeah. He wouldn't speak to them because they did some story on one of his sons. He banned a journalist because he didn't like the line of questioning about Ryan Giggs, who right now in a world of trouble. Breaks my heart. That situation could be in deep trouble. I don't want to talk about that. But Sir Alex Ferguson, two words that come to mind: winner and loyal. He was with Manchester United for 27 years. Or was it 27 years? I think it was 27 years. That's it. Is there I can't see a manager today lasting at any club, for a third of that time. It's just, just that winning mentality, that team building, making the most out of what he has. He's a great leader, and he'd be a no-brainer as president.
Yeah, good one. My big takeaway from kind of interactions or reading about him or would be he is a fantastic people person, and he knows how to get the best out of people while not sacrificing his or the club values, which drive behaviors. And kind of bringing that all together. I mean, how do you get the best out of Eric Cantona, man? How the complexity to that? Someone that kung fu someone in the crowd. But while under Sir Alex, he was incredible.
Identity is huge. It's building a culture, right?
That was a crappy example, but yeah, he's top man.
All right, number 2.
Over to you, Jerome.
All right. Thank you for the guest pick. So if there's any year that we have to pick this person, but he would be a good fit anytime, it's got to be Justin Morrow for me. So
great one.
I actually have this write-up. I didn't write it myself, but it works perfectly just because Justin is also a nominee this year for the 2020 MLS Works Humanitarian of the Year. So I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know. I don't know the other resumes coming out of this year, but he would be my number 1 pick. But I'll just read this out for you. Toronto FC is proud to nominate defender Justin Morrow as the 2020 MLS Works Humanitarian of the Year. Since arriving in Toronto in 2014, Justin has been a champion for Toronto FC, both on and off the pitch. in an unprecedented 2020 season, Justin has been at the forefront of enacting positive change across the professional sports landscape. Justin's humanitarianism and leadership were brought to the forefront when he was named the executive director of Black Players for Change, an organization to give Black players in MLS a voice and assist in making systematic change both inside and outside MLS. The Black Players for Change organization has been working in partnership with the MLSPA and MLS on addressing the racial inequalities in MLS, standing with those fighting racism in the world of soccer, and positively impacting Black communities across the United States and Canada. He's been the face of the organization. For any of us who have been around him during this time, we have known him to both be just absolutely dedicated to keeping himself in shape and being there for the team itself. But when he wasn't doing that, he was doing just interview after interview, whether it's been for us, whether it's been for any of the public outlets. He's also been basically the main face of their More Than a Vote coalition to fight Black voter suppression. So, I mean, the list goes on, and he just, I mean, this year in particular, with what he's done with Black Players for Change, it just seems like it's an obvious pick.
Well said. And just to add to that, like, he's been a true difference maker off the field this year. On the field, his resume, I think other than Osorio, he's the longest tenured Toronto FC player right now. He's always kind of been that quiet leader inside the room, Terry. Is that how you've perceived him over the years? But now this is a whole other side of him that we've got to see. He's been, you know, we know him a little bit more than others, so we know him as that kind, intelligent, real down to earth guy. But now he's put it on display, you know, for the sporting world, which. You know, it takes guts. It's probably a little bit of a shift for him, but I've seen him come out of his shell, and I'm so proud of him for doing so. Jerome, great words, Terry, but you've known him for years. You know, what's your take on that?
Yeah, thanks, Jerome. That was fantastic. Yeah, it's difficult. The life of this is going to sound crazy, but kind of the life of a professional soccer player. It's waking up at a certain time, eating certain food, going to training, playing a certain way, and almost kind of staying in your lane and knowing what your role is, and kind of thinking outside the box, or there's just not a ton of opportunity for it. And what I'd say about Justin Morrow is, whenever he's had an opportunity to lead, to speak with the media, engage with the fans, work in the community, he's been different class. And, you know, when you know, Toronto needed the U.S., like it needed somebody to step up and really bring a coalition together, no better man than Justin Morrow. And, you know, he's run with it while continuing to play. I think I know people look up to him. He's had some real big conversations with and put together a game plan that's there's legacy to it, and he's made a difference. And it's you know, I'm so proud of him.
Well put. Shout out to Justin Morrow. He should win Humanitarian of the Year, but I mean, there's plenty of good candidates in this year. A lot of positive social activism, a lot of progress made in Major League Soccer this year. And Justin's been a big part of all that.
I think we got to give a big shout out to Ali Curtis behind the scenes, putting together a strategic plan to on an executive level. I think he's been a big player as well.
Number 2 for me, when I think of politician, this guy comes to mind, but for all the good reasons, not the negative connotations. But he's the head coach of the Canadian men's national team, John Herdman. He knows how to lead a group. He knows how to inspire. He knows how to work with different genders, different races, different people. And he finds the best elements out of everyone he works with to cultivate a team atmosphere where everyone feels that they belong. Everyone has a role to play. on camera, like the way he speaks, the way he gets you energized and pumped. These are all presidential qualities. So I say John Herdman.
Yeah, nice one. Yeah, John's top man. Whenever I see his Geordie mug, I light up. It's he's he's awesome. And it's been incredible working with him. He's if you're in a room of 20 people, you feel like he's talking to you, and he's just so inspiring, and he probably doesn't get the credit he should get. He knows his shit, man. His tactical stuff and the work he puts in behind the scenes, putting together a game plan. No stone is unturned, and man, I'd follow him.
Number one, I think we both have the same guy. Go ahead. It's my world's bleeding over to your TFC world.
MB, Michael Bradley.
MB4.
MB4? Is that the word on the street?
That's what I've always called him, MB4.
Yeah. Top leader, top person, dad, very articulate. Whenever we've shared a moment, it's lasted with me. I'd just like to get to know him a little bit more as well.
Michael has always been a voice of reason. I've been part of many scrums over the course of my broadcasting career. Every time that you speak to Michael, he takes a moment to think about what he's actually going to say. He understands that words matter. The way that you characterize things matter. That sticks out to me. And he spoke out on a number of political issues. And as a leader of not only Toronto FC, but the captain of the U.S. men's national team, there's responsibility that comes along with it. And he doesn't shy away from it. He understands it's part of the job and meets it, head on. Aside from that, there's no one that works harder than Michael Bradley. First person in the gym. There's no off season. It's just go, go, go all the time. Not everyone's wired like him. And I think that when you see a lot of people in politics or the people that hold the best characteristics to be president, they're supposed to work harder than everyone else. And that's exactly what Michael does. He leads by example. He can be difficult sometimes, Terry, because he's demanding. He wants to win. He wants you to be the best version of yourself that you can actually possibly be. And that's not easy for every player. And I think that can grind on individuals if you're not up for it. But by holding his standards so high, he assures that no matter what environment he's in, it's set up for success. And that's all that you can ask in a true leader. So I give Michael all the credit in the world, and he'd be the ideal El Presidente.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, man.
All right. That's this week's high five. Shout out to that. There's a number of other candidates we could say. Greg Vanny, Bill Manning, just like, dude, there's so many different people within that organization.
Hey, Wheels, can I throw in another name?
Go ahead. Jerome, I thought you weren't participating.
I was listening through it, and then it kind of brought just like one more name. I know when I was looking ahead, I wanted to, you mentioned captain of the U.S. men's national team. I'm going to pick the captain of the U.S. women's national team, Megan Rapinoe.
Well done. Well, yeah. She is actually very socially active and a very important person in creating positive, change in a lot of different ways today. And in a lot of ways, her role goes well beyond sports. Well beyond the game.
I think it just like her reach that way, and just like how outspoken she's been, an advocate for the LGBTQ plus community. And also very successful on the pitch as well. So I think it deserves a shout.
Yeah, an incredible player. And she, again, doesn't shy away from the responsibility of having a role where there's power in platform, and she uses it to her full ability as well. That's this week's high five. One other thing before we want to go, we got into a little bit of a debate. Tonight, Columbus played Orlando, and Columbus could have gone level in the table with TFC and with Philadelphia Union, adding a third horse to that race. Instead, they lost tonight to Orlando, who were down to 10 men in the second half after Nani was sent off. My initial reaction when we sent off, it was a joke, Terry. It was laughable. Nani, just outside of his own area, took a little bit of a heavy touch, turned on his right foot, and tried to slide through for a challenge when the Columbus Crew player was stepping in. He hit the ball, made a little bit of contact with the plant foot of the player, Arthur, and initially the referee gave him a yellow card. Orlando was protesting. They didn't think it should be a foul at all, and I was kind of borderline on it. Then it went to VAR. The referee came back, gave him a red. 5-6 minutes later, he's finally sent off. To me, it was a complete joke. He should have never been sent off. Largely this season in MLS, I think the refereeing is being good, but they simply got it all wrong. And as a longtime Manchester United supporter, I remember in the 2013 Champions League, Manchester United, Real Madrid, it was Sir Alex Ferguson's last year. He had that high boot on Arbeloa, I think it was.
Yeah, I remember.
And he was just trying to bring the ball down. He was sent off. It was an awful call at that time. What's with Nani and these absolute garbage sending offs? He was almost in tears, the poor guy. They're going to appeal it. They have to appeal it because there's no way he should be suspended because of that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? And if you haven't seen it, check it out because it was officiating at its worst.
Yeah, it was one of those ones when you watch it back on video and you slow it down, you can kind of see his foot's raised. He follows through into the calf or shin of Artur. And slow mode, you could say, yeah, it's a red. But I think you need to take into context. It's Nani. He was chasing a touch. There was no malice to it. The Columbus Crew players were over it.
Yeah. Right.
There was no appeal whatsoever. And the game was going to go on fine. All of a sudden it's VAR. And when you slow it down, he does go studs up and he does catch him. And he goes over top of the ball. So I think by the letter of the law, you could say it's a red. But I think this kind of call, there's discretion to it. And you take in all the other considerations. It also wasn't a very physical game. I think they got it wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, the referee largely has been pretty decent this MLS season, all things considered. Don't want to call like that to rear its ugly head come playoff time. Could be a difference maker. Justice was served tonight with Orlando winning, by the way, but
yeah, that's what I was going to say. The football gods got it right. And DK's finish was a little bit Ayo Akinola-esque, where he kind of just made a play, made something happen.
I think that was Michel at the end. It wasn't DK, but DK's had an unbelievable season, man. Okay. Yeah. Did
DK work for it?
Potentially. I can't remember. I know it was Michel that scored the winner. By the way, DK stud. Him and Achara, both like gems of this draft. I can't wait to see Achara back with TFC next season. Yeah. Anyways, went on a little bit of a tangent there. That's all the time we have for this week. Next week, we'll give you our top 5 storylines from the Toronto FC season as we reflect on the regular season that was. And we'll look ahead to some playoff football as we'll have a better understanding who's in, who's out, and all the headlines coming out of the finale. It's decision day in Major League Soccer, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Toronto FC, New York Red Bulls from Red Bull Arena. I'll see you on the golf course tomorrow, Terry Dunfield.
Let's do it. We were rained out last time, weren't we? You're up 2-1. Let's go.
Let's go. Jerome, enjoy the weekend, buddy.
You guys have a fun time. Be on your best behavior. We want to have a episode next week.
Absolutely not.
I'll be masked up.
Yes. On behalf of Terry, on behalf of Jerome, I'm Wheels up on Come On You Reds.